I'm going to be talking to you about 10.3. This is all about triangles. How many of you feel like you know some things about triangles? All right, there's 3 things I want to make sure that you know. Write these 3 things down for me. One thing that you got to know is all of the angles of a triangle will always add up to what? 180 degrees. So let's imagine that we've got this right here. Help me to understand, what kind of an angle is this? It's a right angle. So how many degrees is that? 90 degrees. Okay, let's just imagine that this one was 45 degrees, and let's call this one 46 degrees. I want you to put that in your calculator, add those up, or some of you might be able to do it in your head. If you add up all those sides, how many degrees is that?
81.
How many?
91.
Listen, you can't forget this right here is 90 degrees also. Okay, so add up all 3 of the angles, and what do you get?
181.
181 degrees. Is that possible?
No.
Why not?
Because it has to be 180.
All of them have to add up to 180, not 181. So when you are trying to find angles, if you add them up, that's a way to double check to see if you got it correct or incorrect, okay? Next up, always know that a triangle has 3 sides. And the last thing, you're going to want to know this will be a vocab term on your quiz. What does congruent mean? It means that it has equal measures. Number 1 is asking us to find the value of x. Remind me again, what is it that I know about triangles?
They equal 180 degrees.
It's going to equal 180 degrees. So all of those 3 right there have to add up and equal 180 degrees. Now one of them is unknown. We don't know what it is. So right now we'll just call it x degrees. Is there anything that I can do on the left of the equal sign? No, so what do I do with that?
Just drop it.
Just drop it down. Is there anything that I can do on the right side?
Yes.
What can I do?
62 plus 63 plus 7.
All right. Let's do what we can do. 62 plus 63. What is that? Okay. 125 degrees plus x. Remember, our goal always is to get x by itself. How do I get rid of 125?
Minus 125.
Minus it. Why do I minus instead of divide?
Yeah, there's no addition symbol.
Okay, we are adding it there. Remember, we're doing opposites. Do you guys remember what that property was called?
Distributed.
The inverse property, because that's when you do the opposite to try to get rid of something. So we know right here that this is going to cancel out. We're not going to have it anymore. On the right side, you are just left with x equals what?
55 degrees.
55 degrees is correct. Okay, now if you were to take that and plug this back in here, I want you to add up those 3 angles, 62 plus 63 plus 55. When you add those 3, what do you get, guys? 180 degrees. Is that what we wanted?
Yes.
That is correct. So then you know that you did it correctly. Second one, we're going to find the measure of the 3rd angle. Basically exactly what we were just doing before, but there's no pretty little picture for you, okay? So how many degrees does it have to add up to? It's got to be 180 degrees. We know there's one that's 112. We know the other one is 34.8. And we know the other one is unknown, okay? So let's do some work on the right. What is 112 plus 34.8? 146.8 degrees. All right, how do I get x by itself? That is correct. We've got to subtract so that we can get that x all by itself. When I subtract it on the right side, what do I get?
33.2 degrees.
All right. Now, if I were to take this and add it to those other 2, what should it equal?
180 degrees.
Why should it equal 180 degrees?
Because that's how much a triangle is.
Because that's how much a triangle is. If it doesn't add up to 180 degrees, that means we did it incorrectly, okay? Did anyone add them up?
Yes.
What's it equal?
180.
That means we did it correct. Good job. All right, now this one looks a little different. Find the value of y. Is y inside of my triangle? So does anyone have a clue as to how I would figure out what that would be? What do you think?
You could use y equals 108 plus 38 plus.
Those 3 numbers, they're they're all added together.
Here's what I want you to remember, what we talked about yesterday. A right angle, not a right angle, a straight angle. Let's just imagine it looks like this. And we're trying to figure out what that is. How much is a straight angle?
180.
180. So if I know this one is 34 degrees, how do I figure out what that one is? You have to minus it, okay? So we had 180 because that's our straight angle, and subtract 34 degrees. This is just like what we did yesterday. You just forgot about it because we were talking about triangles instead of a straight angle. So what would that answer be?
146 degrees.
146 degrees. I will give you an interesting fact. If you were to add these two angles right here, the ones opposite of the one that is adjacent or right next door to the y, add those two for me.
What?
108 plus 38, what does it equal?
146.
So that's just an extra tip. If you ever want to figure out the outside angle, it's going to be the opposite two angles added up together. All right, so this one's a little bit more difficult. This asks us to find the values of x and y. We cannot do what we did before in finding the straight angle because I don't know either of those angles yet. What do you think I should find first, x or y?
Y.
X, Y.
I would say let's find x first because I can add them up together, right? And then figure out what's missing from 180. So we know the total is going to be 180. It's going to equal 52 degrees plus 60 degrees plus x degrees. What's 52 plus 60?
112. 102.
112.
112.
112 degrees. Then we want to get x by itself, so how do I get rid of that 112?
Minus 112.
Subtract it on both sides. What is x? 68 degrees. All right, so that's the first step. We know now that this one is going to be 68 degrees. So how do I figure out what this one is going to be?
No, you subtract 168.
You subtract it from 180, okay? Because we know a straight line is 180 degrees, and we know that that angle is 68 degrees. So y equals what?
112 degrees.
Not 100, oh yes, 112 is correct. Now, we know that those two are on a straight line, so if I were to add these two together, what should it equal?
180.
It should equal 180, does it?
Yeah.
Very good job. I like the way that Hannah just said that. She remembered that little tip that I had told you. If you were to add these two together, then that will always equal that one right there. So she added those two together and found out that that was 112. So I do not care how you find it. Either one is fine. Okay? Good job. All right, so I've got a joke for you. Why did the obtuse angle go to the beach?
To get bigger.
Oh, man.
All right, you guys have not come up with good answers. You ready for it?
Bob.
I want to see
It's
it.
Bob.
Because it was over 90 degrees.
Oh, my God.
I knew that.
Oh, my God.
All the time.
Remember? Obtuse angle. Remember that. Obtuse angles are always greater than 90 degrees. Okay, so this is an example of some terms that you're going to want and need to know for your quiz coming up on Monday. First thing, an acute triangle has 3 acute angles, okay? So I want you to remember kind of the difference here. This is an acute angle. This is an acute triangle. What's the difference between them? One of them has a third side, okay? So basically it's like closing in an angle. So just know the difference between a triangle and an angle. What does acute mean?
It means
Less than 90 degrees.
Less than 90 degrees. Good job. Let's go on to the next one. The right triangle. This is easiest to find because it has a what in it?
Square.
A right angle, but it is identified by seeing that little square right there. Good job. The last one is an obtuse triangle. It has one obtuse angle. What does obtuse mean?
Over 90 degrees.
Okay, over 90 degrees, just like that angle that went to the beach. It was over 90 degrees outside, okay? So is there any way, would it be possible for an obtuse triangle to have more than one obtuse angle?
Yes.
No, it would not.
Let's do this scenario. Is 91 obtuse?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Is another 91, because that's also obtuse? And then if I was to say just 1 degree, add those up, what do you get? 183. Is that possible?
No.
No. So is it possible to have more than one obtuse angle? It is not in a triangle ever able or to be possible. So always know that an obtuse triangle will only have one obtuse angle. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to try to classify what these triangles would be, whether or not they would be acute, right, or obtuse, okay? So let's look at the first one. The easiest thing to do is look for a 90-degree angle. Are there any 90-degree angles there? No, so we know, hands down, this is not a right triangle. So we have to decide, is it acute or is it obtuse?
Obtuse.
All right, you say obtuse. Why is it obtuse?
Because if you have 82 plus 64 plus 34 equals 1.
I don't want you to add anything. I want you just to look at it. Obtuse means it has one angle that is obtuse. That means it has one angle bigger than 90.
Oh, it's acute.
It is acute.
Acute.
Why is it acute?
Because nothing is bigger than 90.
Because every single one of them are less than 90 degrees. 82 is smaller than 90, 64 is smaller than 90, and 34 is smaller than 90. Once again, you don't have to add them up. It's just looking at the individual angles, okay? Going on to the next one, Deasia, what do you think B would be? Why do you think it's obtuse? You are correct. 126 is bigger than 90 degrees, okay? So anything bigger than 90 degrees, that's going to be an obtuse angle. So this has to be an obtuse triangle because it has one angle that is obtuse. The final one, this should be the easiest one to identify. What kind of a triangle is this? Why is it a right triangle? Because there is one of the angles that is a 90-degree angle, so that helps us to know it's a right triangle. All right, so this is going to be a way to identify things by the outside, or how long the lengths are of the triangle. The first one is an equilateral triangle. Everyone say equilateral.
Equilateral.
What word do you hear there?
Equal.
Equal. So what this means is it has 3 congruent sides. What do we say congruent means?
The same.
Equal measure.
Equal measures, okay? So that means that they are 3 congruent sides, or all of the sides measure the exact same thing. Now there's a little marking here that I want to make sure you've got on your notes when you drew your example. Do you see how there's a mark right there? How many lines are on each of those?
One.
Just one line. Because all of them have one line that says each and every one of those lines is the same exact measure. Let's look at the next one. Isosceles triangle. Everyone say isosceles.
Isosceles.
This has at least 2 congruent sides. Tell me again, what does congruent mean?
Equal measurement.
Equal measures. Which one are the 2 sides that are equal?
Ones with the ones on the right.
The ones with the lines going up, okay? This one right here doesn't have a line, so that means it is not equivalent or it's not congruent. Last one. Everyone say scalene.
Scalene.
All right, when I look at a scalene triangle, there are no congruent sides. Notice how many marks are down here. How many? 1. How many is over here?
2.
And how many is over here? Because there is nothing that has the same exact marking, that means none of them are equal or none of them are congruent, okay? I would suggest making little flashcards with all of these vocab words on them because you're going to have to know and be able to identify them on your quiz and your test coming up for next week. For the final section today, this asks us to classify the triangle by the lengths of its sides. So how long the length is of this triangle. As you can see over here, this is going to be 11 centimeters, that's 12 centimeters, and this one is 6 centimeters, okay? In your notes, go ahead and write that down too. Then I want you to go back and look to see, are these going to be equilateral, isosceles, or scalene? And go ahead and write your answer in underneath your triangles. All right, the first one, what can you tell me about the sides?
They're not equal to each other.
None of them are equivalent to each other. None of them are congruent. So what does that have to be?
Scalene.
It must be a scalene triangle. Good job. And the last one, how many of them equal?
All of them.
All of them. So what does it have to be?
Equilateral.
Equilateral. Okay? Please be sure to study and review all of the different terms from the past few lessons for our quiz. Good job today, guys.